Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. Today I have a very interesting conversation lined up for you with Dana Kippel, the author of a book titled A New Force, which is all about plasma, the fourth state of matter, very highly energized matter. Of course, matter makes up the majority of our universe, and we have solids, we have liquids, we have gases, we have plasma. Very little is known about plasma, and a lot has been suppressed. Now, we recorded this podcast on December 12th, and I find it very interesting that on December 15th, we saw that a leading scientist into plasma and nuclear fusion research from MIT was murdered in cold blood in his home at night in Boston. He was shot 3 times, taken to the hospital, died the next morning. And if you read the book, A New Science of Heaven, by Robert Temple, then you can learn a little bit more about this covert history around plasma and nuclear research that has been active since the creation of the nuclear bomb and hydrogen bombs and more. So this was a cold-blooded murder of one of the top leading plasma and fusion researchers around the world from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And this was just a couple weeks ago on December 15th. It adds a whole new dimension to the conversation that I have with Dana. So I wanted to mention that at the beginning of this video. Very unfortunate sequence of events for that to occur. This is Nuno Loureiro. He was 47 and he was just recently promoted to be the lead director of plasma and nuclear research at MIT in 2024. And well, it didn't last that long. And so keeping all that in mind, now let us jump into this podcast that I recorded with Dana Kippel on plasma. Hello and welcome everyone to the podcast. I'm your host, Stefan Burns, and today I'm joined by Dana Kippel, who is the author of A New Force, and you can find her on Instagram at dana.thealien. There's her book right there. And there she is. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah. And so we're going to be talking about plasma today, the fourth state of matter, which is what her book's about and what Dana really got interested in and what I'm very interested in myself. Because as you know, there's some obviously science here. Some really visionary people have done incredible work researching the plasma, the discovery of it. But in general, it seems that the things that use plasma, like the industries, for example, nuclear fusion.
Hmm.
They'll talk about nuclear fusion, but they don't really
Yeah.
tell you that what they're doing is they're creating plasma and then condensing it into a very confined, tight spot such that the hydrogen atoms start to actually ram into each other. So they're working with
Hmm.
plasma, with these
Yeah.
stellarators and other designs. And then you listen to some of these, for example, recently astrophysicists talk about Three-Eye Atlas, and they're talking about
Hmm.
gas and dust, but
It's plasma.
plasma, baby. Like, are you going to say the word? Are you going to say it? So,
No. That's what's so weird. It's so suppressed. There's like a natural suppression of plasma for many reasons, which is odd.
yeah, almost purposely wanting, well, A, it's new. So I think there's some just level of inertia of things like this take time to disseminate, but also
Hmm.
there's such a rich history to this, probably much, much, much more that we don't know. And maybe
Hmm.
some people do know, and it's like trying to
Hmm.
keep that information suppressed. I don't know. Just
Oh
it
yeah.
sets off my spidey senses.
Yeah, so in chapter 2 of my book, I actually write all about this. I write about the secret history from ether to plasma. And basically, when they first discovered plasma, Sir William Crookes named it radiant matter. He actually addressed the British Royal Society in the late 1800s, talking about how it had paranormal properties that made him feel like almost like he was in other worlds. And he was telling the scientists, like, I know you're scared of this, but like, we can't be scared of this. Like, something new is coming. It has mystical properties. And you guys need to get your heads out of your asses, basically. And then all of a sudden, they switched it from radiant matter and then had this theory of luminiferous ether. But then Michelson Morley test disproved luminiferous ether, but they didn't even test for it correctly. They tested for a stationary ether. Um, Well, as I know, multidimensional plasma or ether is always in flux. It's not stationary. And then they created the FBI in 1908, and then in 1928 they all of a sudden were like, oh, plasma we discovered. We're calling it the fourth state of matter. And then no one correlated that Nikola Tesla literally worked with plasma. So there's all these little, and all of a sudden when they called it plasma, it was like there's no more paranormal properties, no more mystical talk. It was just all like cut and dry, used for national security, used for fission and fusion. And it's just been a very strange history plasma has had. And there's been definite either natural suppression because of national security, but I think also a little bit of like they weren't ready to get into the consciousness plasma talk. So they swept it under the rug and they're like, oh, let's just make machines out of plasma for national security and like try to friggin' blow the world up.
Yeah, that's another thing with nuclear fission, like the hydrogen
Yeah.
bomb. You have that initial fission of the atom, splitting the atom, and then the next thing that is produced is basically a bunch of plasma. Because what
Mm-hmm.
plasma is, for anyone that's watching, if you're unaware,
Mm-hmm.
is it's basically charged matter. So you have a molecule or an element that will split apart such that the electron will separate from the nucleus, either one or
Yes.
many, and that makes these ions, which have charge to them. So now they are more so, much more so under the control of the electromagnetic force rather than the gravitational force. And the electromagnetic force is way stronger, like unbelievably stronger than the gravitational force. Both are important, but
Yeah.
once you're in the realm of electromagnetism, everything changes.
Yes. Yeah, it's an ionized gas, and the most interesting thing I find is that the biggest electromagnetic field that humans have is their heart. So I really believe that when we're in our heart and our consciousness is, heart centered, we can manipulate this plasma, which in turn, because I think it makes up the fabric of reality, a finer plasma than the fourth state of matter. I basically posit there is a multidimensional living ether plasma that we cannot test yet. It is not made of particles and it makes up the fabric of our reality. So I say that we can kind of harmonize with that when we learn to use our consciousness in certain ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and the heart aspect's interesting. The magnetic field of the heart is roughly 100
Hmm.
picotesla in strength. The brain waves that we generate are about 1 picotesla in strength. There's also electric field components to this.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, there's definitely something where you're in a room where you walk by someone, you're like, I don't know, that person just feels off, or the opposite, like this person's awesome. I don't know why I like them, and
Yeah.
it's some component of that, if not by majority, is that there's like a resonance in the frequency or a disresonance
Hmm.
in the frequencies. It's either coherent, non-coherent. Maybe they have a
Hmm.
chaotic field, you can't really read them, or it's like super
Hmm.
coherent with yours.
Hmm.
And yeah, because of that, we have this biofield, the
Yeah.
bioplasma of our body, and then that
Hmm.
also extends out to space, and there's information attached to
Hmm.
energy always. So, I
Hmm.
mean, it all makes sense. It's not that complicated.
No, it makes perfect. I mean, yeah, light carries the information. When plasma changes energy states, there is fluorescence, which literally lets light or photons out. So there's always an information exchange when there's energy exchanges. And yeah, like we're fish in a floating in a sea of plasma, and none of us really realize it. And the reason that there is telepathy and the reason you can feel people's energies is because we're all in that ocean of plasma. It really makes perfect sense. So I don't know. Yeah, it's weird that it feels so esoteric because it's not. Like this should be like the basis of science. Like it should all start with plasma. It shouldn't be like the least known subject. That's just crazy.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, there's some act of suppression and ignorance combined to this,
Mm-hmm.
but it seems to really be catching on, and the uh, the consciousness angle and that connection is
Mm-hmm.
also catching on more and more, just because
Mm-hmm.
once you learn about it, I mean, there's a certain level of like you need to research into this and like, oh, okay, now I
Mm-hmm.
know this and it clicks, and no one's born just knowing everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't take that much research. The whole hope of this podcast is to kind of be that first step for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But the consciousness connection is really important and seems to
Mm-hmm.
be increasingly coming into the public awareness and zeitgeist. Can you speak to that? Like, how is consciousness? What is consciousness? Plasma? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do we know? How do
Yeah.
they overlap? What are some little clues that we have?
Sure. So the way I view consciousness might be different than some people, and like really, what is consciousness? So I view consciousness as kind of a system, and a system of perspectives. So in our three-dimensional reality, we have a three-dimensional consciousness system, which is simply our higher awareness feedbacking with plasma, creating a three-dimensional material reality consciousness system. And then there's what I call fourth dimensional consciousness, which is feedbacking with plasma as well as the fabric of our reality, or what I would call a fourth dimensional plasma. This is the field people call the collective unconscious or the Akashic realm. It's our thoughts, emotions, our dreams. And that is a different consciousness system perspective. And then call there's fifth dimensional consciousness, which is also awareness, which is totally different than like survival consciousness, which most of us are stuck in from like trauma and, limiting belief systems. And that is basically just saying like our higher self is operating in us right now. And that feeds back with an even finer plasma that influences reality more. So I kind of just view consciousness as a system. I think it's different than our actual awareness. And we can either be just within that three-dimensional consciousness system, or we can learn to be multidimensional humans with multidimensional consciousness. And, we can be in 3D, 4D, 5D at any time. And it seems complex, but it's actually not. It's extremely simple. And these, three levels are reflected like everywhere in every mythology ever. Um, so yeah, I would just say consciousness is a feedback system that almost like if you picture our torus, our biofield, that's just feedbacking with plasma. That's all it is. And then plasma, I would call the expanded definition of plasma, not no longer an ionized gas, which is just one facet of plasma with a lens of science, but this multidimensional expanded version of plasma is a multidimensional living sentient field slash substance. I would even call it more of a living being that's sentient, that is the vehicle for consciousness, information, and intelligence. So it's not conscious itself. It is more has imprints of consciousness. Like it has its own memory, but it's not, I wouldn't call it self-aware, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a amalgamation of everything else around it. And
Yeah. It's like
like
the clay.
yeah, I was just going to say the soil from which a plant will grow. I mean, the soil
Hmm.
is also alive with bacteria and everything, but there is
Hmm.
some base stratum to it that is lower in frequency and in conscious awareness. I mean, Itzhak Bentov has
Hmm.
this consciousness system, and the mineral
Hmm.
consciousness is the lowest. And doesn't mean there's not
Hmm.
consciousness there, but it's
Hmm.
slow, but it can also build up over eons and eons, whereas, for a human, typical life is
Hmm.
like 80 years. So there's different aspects and
Yeah.
levels and realities to it.
Yeah, I would say that. Like, I always tell people because they're like, how do I know if I'm connecting with plasma or if I'm connecting with like another being of consciousness? And I always tell them plasma, at least to me, feels more like a dog. Oh, where's my dog? Well, a dog or an animal. It's like loving and feeling and like a hug, and it's supportive, but it doesn't really like that's just it. It's just like a supportive feeling. And then another being of consciousness, which actually is coming through plasma. So it's still cloaked in plasma, which reflects your subconscious, which is a whole nother thing. Um, that being will feel more to have free will. And there's just a difference in nuance and feeling, which once you kind of get to know this world, you just know.
So what
Yeah.
what what got you into this? Because right before we started, you were saying that you first started
Hmm.
studying the plasma around the age of 30.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think in general, people have heard about plasma through maybe some little science program or something, but they haven't learned too much about it or really
Hmm.
gone deep into it.
Hmm.
And I would say in general, as we were both talking about again earlier, like this is still probably early adopter stage.
Hmm.
And soon it'll probably be like much more well known and discussed. And I think there's going to be an increasing wave of spirituality that sweeps across the globe over the next few years and decades. So,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
why did you get into this early? Like, what was spirit poking
Hmm.
you to do that? Why?
Hmm.
Why are you interested in this? What's
Hmm.
your mission around plasma?
Yeah, I feel like in a way, like it chose me, and like I'm sure I chose this before I came here. Like my life was set up in a weird way where I had a propensity for math and science as a kid. I didn't really have many friends. I was very strange. I also was into the paranormal stuff. And then I developed a drug and alcohol addiction from age like 14 to 21. I had a lot of trauma as a kid. And then because of that, I got into mental health. So then we take the math and science, we take the, just having empathy because I've lived a hard life, and then we take the mental health aspect. So I learned a lot about psychology, Carl Jung and integration and embodiment versus like spiritual bypassing. And then I got into acting and science fiction filmmaking. And then finally, I started meditating when I was like 30, 31. And all of a sudden, it's like I knew this stuff all at once. It was like a big thought block entered my mind. And it was like my higher self or my future self was like, you're going to write a book called A New Force. It's going to be about plasma. That's the vehicle for consciousness. And like all of a sudden, I just knew all these things about plasma. And I never studied plasma, never even heard of plasma in my life. Like, that's why it's so weird that I still can't explain it. It feels very strange to me. I didn't go seeking for this. All I had was the intention to, when I started meditating, I was in so much pain. I was like, I want to know more about who I am and connect with myself because I always felt this like weird disconnection with my own body and myself. And then this came to me. And through plasma, I kind of reconnected back with like myself and spirituality. And I would call it more metaphysics, like a mix of science and spirituality. But yeah, it was like my life was the perfect storm to do like exactly this. And I didn't want to do it at first. I was like, no one's gonna think I'm like cool and awesome doing this stupid plasma stuff. Like I want to be like a famous actress. So I like didn't want to do it for a long time. And then eventually I was like, no, like I meant to do this and I love it and I don't even care what people think anymore. So anyway, that's kind of how it was a very strange thing that just came through to me after meditation. And then I just never looked back. And I just, yeah, everything I knew I had to translate into like human words, which I'm still working on, like how to bridge from what I know and hear and in my heart to what like is known right now in science. Um, and I understand science really well. So like I think, for instance, really quick, this four-dimensional plasma I speak of, there's stuff right now that's happening in like CERN where they're discovering this stuff with like dark matter and energy and these new kind of virtual particles and things kind of interacting with our reality from other dimensions. I think that this is just like what I call this four-dimensional plasma field or this collective unconscious. The mistake they're all making is they're not bringing emotion and thought and dreams into it. So I'm kind of synergizing like science, spirituality, and psychology or mental health. And I'm trying to create like a new paradigm of like, we can actually put this all together. It doesn't just have to be science. And I'm at the very beginning of that.
More and more people are kind of realizing that the system that we're in isn't really working. And they're
Hmm.
like, wait, I'm working a job to just get laid off, to then have to struggle to find another job, which is going to pay me less. Meanwhile, they're inflating our currency away. And I mean, for example, I've gone to the grocery store. I've done a few trips this year, each about like a
Hmm.
month long. And
Hmm.
every time I've gone back to my normal grocery store, the price of beef has gone up like $3 like in a month. Like
Whoa.
just this past, and maybe it's just the store, whatever. Like just this
Yeah.
past 6 months though, as we film this in December of 2025,
Uh-huh.
the inflation on certain things has been insane. And
Yeah.
so it's like, what is the point of doing all this if you're not even enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
And if you were to continue doing that acting path, I mean, maybe it would work out, but in general, most people don't succeed there. And you have a fairly large Instagram, so it seems
Yeah.
that you're probably actually more popular now doing this plasma stuff than you would
I
have been
know.
being an actress. Um, so
So
it's
weird.
interesting how that works out, where
I
you
know.
you listen to that little nudge from universe, higher
Hmm.
spirit, whatever, that then
Hmm.
leads you on this path, which may not initially like, boom, there it is, like everything at once, because you're probably not worthy of it yet. But if you stick with
Yeah.
it, it does manifest. And it's probably also because we're working to make the plasma around us more coherent, and that's then attracting
Yes.
things in and more.
It, that's why it's so cool because it like mixes every like yeah, number one, plasma directly has to do with like healing trauma, which most people like wouldn't think when they think of like the fourth state of matter, plasma. And the more I healed my trauma, my limiting belief systems, my self-worth, the more I brought things into me and had more financial abundance and other kinds of abundance. Like finances definitely aren't, I would say, what I value, but it does make life easier. And yeah, like watching my entire life change from learning these things, I was like, oh my God, like I can embody what I'm teaching because I know it works. And yeah, it's just so beautiful that like this thing I discovered also heals people. And by healing ourselves, we're healing this field, this like ancient, I would call divine feminine field that has been suppressed for thousands of years and called a demon or siren or, Mary Magdalene symbolizes it. So does Inanna and all these goddesses that kind of were like put down or, called a whore, prostitute, crazy, whatever. It's like, no, like this field holds our magic powers and we're all scared of our magic power. So it's like shrouded in fear and suppression. And if we realize it held our magic power, we wouldn't need things outside of ourselves, which is bad for consumerism and capitalism. And that is why I think there's a suppression there. But I think that you can't stop it. Like Pandora's box is open. Um, I kind of view it as like Prometheus giving the fire away. I feel like we're kind of all like that, where it's like we're putting the power back in the human and reflecting people's power to themselves, and there's just like no turning back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how you mentioned the consciousness, plasma, and psychology triangle, let's say, and how that's been very transformative and how that could transform the planet. And then a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are discussing the like AI, quantum computing, and like UAP, whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
triangle, and how that's going to transform the planet. And one of
Sure.
them, I look at the quantum AI UAP one, and first
Mm-hmm.
off, all this UAP talk is like fear-based. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then, the AI stuff, I use artificial intelligence, certain things like image generation or Notebook LM helps to like take stuff from
Yeah.
research papers, condense it.
Yeah,
But
same.
it makes a lot of mistakes, and these chatbots I think are actually really not good for people. But that's just my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
I agree.
I see how that like works out. I'm like, this is not good.
No.
And then the quantum computing is quite far off actually from what I
Mm-hmm.
know. Maybe it'll get here sooner than we think, but it seems
Mm-hmm.
to be further off. But one of them is like going to lead to the robot which knocks on your door asking for the government payment, right? And it has like a
Yeah.
built-in like taser gun or something or laser
Yeah.
gun. The other is self-empowerment and the creation of a human society which can still have technology interconnectedness, but also is
Yeah.
very much rooted in the ancient
Magic.
traditions of the magic and the ancient traditions of the past of peace and prosperity and community.
Mm-hmm.
So like, guys, which one do we want? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't want the death robots. So
Yeah. I'm so glad you just said that because you made an awesome connection that I've been talking about my videos for like 2 years, but I don't think I was able to say it in the way you just did for some reason. You compared it really well. So, like, yeah, my book is literally called like Plasma, Consciousness, and a New Human Potential. This is just psychology. It's psychology of the new human. And the new human is a multidimensional human. It is, us learning to work with different perspectives of our consciousness or awareness with plasma and our consciousness system. And like with that, what I've been told from spirit, whatever, plasma's like the unicorn, and she will show herself to those who are pure of heart. It doesn't mean you can't make mistakes. It just means you have good intentions. And I think there's like a new field sprouting up of quintessence rather than quantum physics, which is like this field of experience and emotion and thought and dreams and magic. And I think that this is actually the future. It's more of like a solar punk future of supportive technology, which is still technology, but it almost is like more organic technology, soft using soft matter, limestone, using things that synergize with the earth and feedback with the earth, and maybe even more like sacred geometry, like technology that's not conscious, but it actually supports our consciousness expanding. And I'm kind of in the beginning stages of researching that stuff too. So anyway, there's all these things that can lead to a beautiful synergistic, harmonized future where we're empowered, we have better health, more connection, more magic, more love. And then there's this shit that's being pushed right now, quantum computing. How's that going to connect us to ourselves more? It's fucking not. We already have the internet. Like, who the fuck cares? And then AI, okay, great. I just am an overthinker more now, and I still don't feel any more connected. And I feel a little bit more like someone's listening to me, but it's not even a real person. And then we have the UAPs, which yes, are full of fear and they completely disconnect you from working on yourself. Like if you don't want to face yourself, go study UAPs. Like, or maybe just work on your own fucking trauma and go to a therapist. Because when I can just tell you right now, when I interface with UAPs, the few I've seen, they're reflecting back my own trauma to me. Same with these ghosts, these demons, these beings I've seen too. Like I'm an experiencer as well. I know a lot of people are, but you can co-create your experience. When you realize that this experience, the power is within you and all you're experiencing is your own consciousness reflecting off of them. There are beings visiting you, but they're neutral. They're not evil. They're actually all here to support us. We're just not seeing them correctly because of our own issues. So anyway, it's all a fucking mess, but hopefully people will wake up to this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's how reality works. That I found is that um, you're always given information and signals that will lead you to the right path.
Mm,
And if you, let's say, delay making the change, because
mm,
here the truth is being presented, it may be like just a
mhm,
little hint or maybe a screaming signal, but the truth is
mm,
being presented. And if you're like, nah, that's not it, and then you keep doing this thing, then those signals will build and build and build until it becomes undeniable, or maybe even like you
mm,
die, right? And
mm,
so
mhm,
if the signal is small and you're really, really aware, then you can make that
mhm,
change. The key, the difficulty there may be that if it
mhm,
was a small signal, you may not have enough evidence to then really cement that into your being and not go back to whatever that thing is. Whereas if you
mm,
do let the signal build up more and more, then you start to get some undeniable proof that this is the
mm,
deal. Then hopefully at that point, you make the change. A lot of people don't, and they actually live in that new reality where they just don't put two and two together. And
mhm,
as a result, that's where you really start to get problems building up.
mhm,
And so you can course correct and get on the right path with a very tiny signal, but you may not have as much uh, information as you may need to stay on that path. Though that's the thing, if you're really in resonance with yourself, you should have that feeling of, okay, that's true even with a tiny signal. General, it
yeah,
takes bigger signals for people, but
yeah,
sometimes it's like they need a tsunami, like a health crisis or something like that for
yeah,
this change to get implemented. And if we're interested in making the world a better place and self-actualizing people, we need to speed that process up
mhm,
and and not like do it in a fake way, but actually
mhm,
just cultivate greater awareness. It's like getting rid of old programming and doing
mhm,
the whole self-verification process and
mhm,
yeah, researching the plasma,
mhm,
consciousness,
and
psychology, all those
mhm,
seem to like synergize and create that catalyst of change for people.
mhm. Yeah, no, so I think too why some people seem to have an aversion to me, and not everyone, but I'm just saying I can be polarizing, is the people that are stuck in more of that like quantum physics, AI, UAP triangle. And like, I think it's scary. And Carl Jung even said the scariest thing is for man to face himself. And like, I am like, I've always actually struggled even having friendships because when I like, I'm with someone, I'm like a mirror. And like, if you don't like anything about yourself, like I'm going to bring that out of you. And, I think when people are very authentic, that, can remind people that they're not being authentic. And I think sometimes my whole life I've taken that as like I'm the problem and I'm like a loser and like no one likes me. But really, I think I'm realizing now I hold a lot of light. And I'm sure you maybe can relate to this. And like people just can't hold that. It's like too much for them because that means they have to change. And people just, yeah, aren't ready to do that. But hopefully that changes.
Yeah, I've had my own personal experiences with that, and certainly I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, but
Yeah, no,
um,
no, no.
it goes all the way back to when I was a teenager. It was actually funny, like at the beginning of our conversation, you just
Yeah.
told me straight up something,
Oh,
and
yeah, that I'm quitting. I smoke, I'll tell everyone, I smoked cigarettes for weeks. I was having a emotional crisis and it's like my only outlet because I obviously don't do drugs or anything. And I just, quit smoking and now I'm in withdrawal and I'm tired.
yeah, and so it's funny because you said that, and I'm not the type of person that would judge that. So then we talked about a little bit of the spirituality of tobacco and
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
So we're both very Dutch in that way, but not everyone is so just like blunt and by the book. And
Hmm.
I'm realizing, I realized a while back, but back in high school, I've always just been very just like self-assured, and it's not
Hmm.
something I had to like train myself to do. It's just I'm just comfortable with who I
Hmm.
am, I guess. Whereas
Hmm.
there was definitely people I know that like they literally created an entire lie about themselves. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, that's actually still quite common. And
it
so
is.
it goes into also like health and wellness stuff. And so it's funny because we're not talking about plasma, but we are because plasma is
We
what
are.
holds all these memories and what's holding this information. It's a new paradigm of
Hmm.
understanding how everything is connected together
Hmm.
internally with other people, with the earth, with the
Hmm.
sun, interstellar space, the cosmos, and more.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, when you talk about consciousness, what are you talking about? Like our heart, our emotions, our life, our psychology. That's like it's so funny when I hear these people talk in science talking about consciousness, and it's like, hello, like our consciousness is literally our humanity and our emotions and our trauma and our memories. But like, why the F are you guys not talking about all that stuff? And like everyone just seems to like, I don't know, on social media, it just feels like a lot of people in these spaces don't show their whole selves. And like, I really want to show people that you can be like an imperfect human because I'm very imperfect and still struggle in a lot of ways. But you can also be smart and know things and also try to do good and have good intention and like change the world at the same time. Because that's how everyone really always was behind closed doors. Like Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein were so weird and had like all these relationship issues. But like
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like now yeah, we're like meant to think that if we I feel like a lot of us have so much shame and like I don't know. I just don't care to be anything but myself. But yeah, sometimes it's lonely because like not as many people want to be your friend.
Yeah, I understand. Trust me.
Yeah.
And so if we were to pivot a little bit more towards some of the science,
Plasma.
but maybe less the science that some people may know, you mentioned this book
Hmm.
on plasma by the Russian guy and how it
Hmm.
presented, yes, and how it presented plasma, the fourth state of matter, in kind of a new light as compared to, let's say, like a Western understanding. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like what the
Yeah.
Russians, just based off of my research, um, they have done a lot of really deep, interesting research into electromagnetism and plasma more that hasn't really
Hmm.
filtered to the West. And there are many
Hmm.
ways they're way ahead of us. So what is it that you glean from this book?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I haven't finished it yet, but I will say, so just for everyone to see, it's called Plasma, the Fourth State of Matter by D.E. Frank, I cannot pronounce, Kamensky. But it basically just
Kamen means
talks,
stone,
oh,
which is
really?
interesting. Yeah, because I speak a little Russian.
Oh, wow. That's cool. It basically talks about plasma in a way anyone can understand, but it goes into like what plasma really is and like the weird properties it has. But like not in like a boring way. Like I don't really know. I wish I could explain it way better than that. But I don't know. For instance, here's the thing. This is what I do know. When you look into the dynamics of plasma and how plasmas work, you actually can learn more about your consciousness and your emotions and like the system. So the way plasma works with electromagnetism is the way our consciousness works with the fabric of reality. And it teaches you about surrender. It teaches you about plasma turbulence, which is literally just emotions. And when you're not in a coherent system, how things just don't work in the same ways. And by reading this, I'm able to pattern recognize a lot of things that I can go into at a later time. And just like I can learn more about like my own psychology through learning about plasma, which is kind of crazy. And
That
then,
was my
but
experience as well. And when I study this stuff, is I often find
mhm,
that it's basically a direct corollary or correlate to this other
mhm,
thing, and or it's very similar, and everything's kind
yeah.
of fractal. So interesting that you
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, everything's fractal, exactly. And like for instance, I was just reading, I teach these classes on what I would call like the science of higher consciousness. There's like four states of how plasmas act. I talk about this thing called a third space. It actually creates like a tractix or a pinch point. And this is almost like if you picture this is me and you talking right now, we're creating this third space or a gestalt where there's like new information that can come out called emergence. So
Hmm.
anytime you connect with any other bubble of plasma or person or even thing, an emergent third thing happens, which I would also call dark energy in science, which is how the universe like literally expands. And there's ways to put your consciousness in this third space to use to communicate using telepathy, to get more information than you would normally get when you're not in this third space, and pick up on that what I would call emergent energy. But yeah, I learned that plasma has these behaviors, and I actually would call plasma as more like an assigned behavior of the fabric of reality. There's ion flow, voltage, and then there's an energy and information exchange, and then there's coherence or decoherence. So basically, the way it works is there's an event, an outer or inner event. For instance, I don't know, someone betrays me, like, that always has happened. Then there's a voltage. And this is how plasma literally works. There's a buildup of potential energy in me. There's tension, which always precedes transformation. The next is information exchange, which happens with plasma sheaths and with our magnetosphere, and with a plasma membrane in a cell. This happens across the board, also happens with our biofield. So in this information exchange, there is an information exchange with me and my outer reality. And then I can basically either in this time be open to new information based on why I've been betrayed or whatever the situation is and apply that. Number one, I have to actively listen for that information when you're in this like liminal space. Number two, I have to apply it. And if I apply this information I'm getting, which is telling me why I was betrayed, like what's really going on within me, maybe I'm picking the wrong people, whatever, that is when you actually shift your reality. So or you just don't apply the information and then you go back into the same cycle where you're more of like a decoherent plasma bubble. So if you continue on with coherence, you kind of just level up your whole life. Anyway, it was like a really cool thing. I was able to connect with plasma, like why these things work, because I'm not reinventing the real wheel. We've read these things for thousands of years and Kabbalion and all these books, but it's like there was never like tangible proof in like science that like, working on yourself would work in these ways. But I've been able to see that plasma works in these same dynamics. And I'm like, oh, this is like naturally how you can work on yourself. And I feel like there's proof that it works in plasma. So it has to work with myself. And it gave me the self-belief to actually do these things and apply them. And there's like tangibility there. And anyway, my life has changed like following these little things. I don't know if that made any sense, but
Yeah, well, I have a very similar experience with researching things and it setting off,
mhm. Patterns.
insights
Yeah.
and patterns for other things. And,
Yeah.
it seems that we're very similar. The only difference is I didn't go on a 1 week cigarette bender.
Yeah.
But um,
Not
regardless,
yet.
not yet. It's been a while since I've even had any tobacco, but not yet. Maybe if I go to Europe, that'd be pretty
Yeah.
rare. If I have like two puffs, I'm like on the ground. It's like it hits me so hard. Um,
Yeah.
but
I was
yeah.
I was just saying it was just because I was in a little emotional crisis. I had a very strange month. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have had a very strange month. And what you made me think of is
Mm-hmm.
and more than a strange month, is that
Mm-hmm.
we we're born, we grow up, we go to school, we're 18, we're quote unquote adults. And then we talked about right before we started about feeling like you're really adult at 30, which corresponds
Yeah.
to a Saturn return, one revolution of Saturn
Mm-hmm.
around the sun. And
Mm-hmm.
so you really start to get your feet set on the ground around 30 or so. But I
Mm-hmm.
also just like am thinking about how many people, even 70, 80, like elders are still very much figuring out some of the things that we're talking about right now. We're in our 30s.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and how in some aspects, once you've encountered this enough and you've kind of dealt with it, how it all seems
Mm-hmm.
pretty mundane and simple and
Mm-hmm.
easy and trivial.
Mm-hmm.
and how this whole process is like us still being in kindergarten, like Earth school.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of a we think that once we're out of
Mm.
school, we're out of school, but it's like I think
Yeah.
most of us are actually still in school and not at the
Yeah.
higher grade levels either.
Yeah. No, because I feel like you probably feel this too. Like, I think I'm just getting started. Like, I'm in early days of like educating people on this. And then next step comes like implementing. So it's like, okay, how do we make supportive organic technologies? How do we actually start um affecting physical matter with our consciousness by expanding our consciousness, like real magic. Like, and I think these things happen through strengthening belief. And the more coherent, the more people are, the more we can actually impact reality in these ways. So, yeah, I just feel like I'm just getting started. So I do agree with you. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, magic is kind of a loaded term, but
Mm-hmm.
I think we see it every day if you pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about earlier about having a certain innocence and just kind of like a purity of intention is really important.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a policy that just an internal rule that I follow. I have a whole bunch of these that just in general make life good. And
Mm.
one of them is that if someone asks me for money, like a homeless person, if they come up to me like, "Hey man, you got a buck or whatever," like I just give it to them.
I do
Um,
too.
and I just feel like if they're bold enough, like if they it's so necessary for them to ask someone, and it's never
Mm.
been crazy. I think the most has been like 10 euros or something. And again, this guy gave me this
Mm.
big bear hug afterwards. It's in Slovakia. And
Mm-hmm.
but so maybe like 2 3 months ago, 2 months ago, I was
Mm.
out with my buddy at night, and this guy came up and said, "Hey man, you got $2 for a slice of pizza?" And it's like, boom, there's
Mm.
$2.
Mm.
2 minutes later, we're crossing the
Mm.
street and I find a crumpled up $20 bill on the ground. And
Mm.
it was like pushed into the asphalt and the cars are ridden over it. It says black, but I got good eyes. So I was like scooped it
Mm-hmm.
up and then
Mm-hmm.
unfolded it on the sidewalk. And it's like, that's
Mm-hmm.
$20. I feel like that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly how life works. That
Yeah.
when you have these systems in place where you
Yeah.
just know it's the right thing to do,
Yeah.
uh, it's a win-win. That guy got
Mm-hmm.
$2. He got a slice of pizza, and
You got
then
20.
$20 didn't go to waste. And the universe is
Yeah.
like, we're going to give you the $20 so you really recognize that this is a
Mm-hmm.
good thing to do, and maybe you'll talk about it on the podcast, right? Like now it's
Yeah.
being discussed on the
Yeah.
podcast, where it can then reach
Mm-hmm.
thousands of others, which is why we gave you a
Yeah.
$20 bill. If it's 2 cents, then okay,
You
you're not
wouldn't.
going to make the connection. And it's not going to be
Yeah.
$200. That's going to be pretty crazy. So like
Yeah.
these things are interesting. You just got to like follow them out. And the system of
Yeah.
karma that's been developed, like we have these,
Mm-hmm.
all the information's already there with various
Mm-hmm.
religions or spiritual ideas, movements, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like ancient history and some of the relics and artifacts that have been left behind speak to a lot of these things. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
about how can we take that information and put it in a way that makes us understand it. And we are living in like a
Mm-hmm.
scientific
Mm-hmm.
paradigm now. And so if
Mm-hmm.
learning about plasma, which helps
Mm-hmm.
you understand these future emergent technologies, also
Mm-hmm.
helps you learn about yourself and everything else, and that's amazing.
And about synchronicities. Like the reason those things come to you is all resonance and pl the plasma field and what it's magnetizing towards you. And how, your higher self or, this God realm, whatever, like communicates with you. Like those beings are the ones that, sent you that $20 bill. And it's so funny because I have a similar story and I do this all the time. I haven't really, I haven't talked about it much, but like in my spare time, like every morning I will ask like how not every morning, that's actually a lie. Like when I remember, I'll ask like how can I service humanity best today? Like help me help someone, especially when I'm very sad. And I this one other guy does that too. This medium named Travis who I just met said a similar thing. Anyway, like 5 years ago, I was food shopping and I saw a homeless guy outside and I was like, I'm just gonna buy him a bunch of food. And I bought a bunch of food. I didn't tell anyone I did this, right? And at the same time, my first film was coming out, my first and only film so far, and it didn't do well, by the way. But um, so anyway, I gave the guy the food, and all of a sudden, I get a notification on my phone 5 minutes later that my movie is coming out in a Deadline article. I did not try to like get a deadline article. I did hire a PR person, but no one was getting those at the time, especially not like a first time indie filmmaker, like who was making like $100,000 movie. And I look and it's like my face plastered on this deadline article. And I was like, oh my God, like karma is so nice. Like it was like the best day of my life. And little things have happened since then. You know, I gave a homeless guy the other day money too, and then signed amazing. It's just like it's just so, yeah, life is very beautiful in that way. And it's so funny actually, the warmth that have searched for in the past in relationships that really is just missing inside myself. I now actually find, and I hope I remember this more saying it, like when I'm helping people, because it's hard for me to connect with most people for whatever reason, probably because the thing we're talking about, the surface thing where I'm authentic, most people are playing a story and there's like just not working. But like I feel that warmth when I help people. So it's like the one other time I feel like I can feel connection. Does that make sense? Kind of? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because most people can connect at that realm of just, very honest and no ulterior motive, just giving. It can be hard for some people to accept that too. So
Mm.
you
Mm.
wonder how we can help people get out of their heads more,
Mm.
including probably us.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh yeah, I'm in
we
my head all
we
the time.
we value cognition and mental processes so much nowadays, but like how much is that actually hurting us? Where we're just like
Mm.
replaying the same thing over and over or overthinking something. It's just like there's a certain how can we get people to move more into like a flow state with this so
Mm-hmm.
general day to day? Like I enter
Mm-hmm.
into a flow state when I'm doing research or my work or if I'm at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not checking my phone at all at the gym. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm meditating in between sets and things or stretching, things of this nature. But
Mm-hmm.
the more we
Same.
can be in a flow state where our mind is
Mm-hmm.
just clear and we're just letting what comes in. And then, you do thinking if you have a problem in front of you and you need to go through A, B, C, D.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can you speak to maybe
Mm-hmm.
how learning about plasma and the plasma around us, how we can enter
Mm-hmm.
into that resonance with the flow state? Is that a property of this fourth dimensional plasma that you're talking about?
Yeah, so the last chapter of my book, it's actually called The Divine Child of Emergence, the Star and the Fool. And it's all about the state of play and the state of flow. And my next book I'm writing is about fear and how you can actually dive into fear and find your flow state through fear. But yes, plasma and I would say our higher selves like want us to play. They want us to be in flow. And they also are okay with us making mistakes. Like we're only judging ourselves. And the like some ways to get into flow states is one way is called negative capability. I think the poet John Keats talked about it. It's about getting in a state where you're not reaching or grasping for anything with tension, but you're able to be receptive, but you're still trying to figure things out, but you're like in paradox. And I would just call that curiosity with no attachment to the outcome. And that's why I think I get in flow states. Like I'll start researching something, all of a sudden I'm off to the rate, and I don't. It's not a conscious process, so it's hard to tell people how to do it. But all I know is all of a sudden I get a curious impulse, and all of a sudden there's like webs, and I'm connecting, and then I find a new website, and then another one, and it's like the universe is telling me things through these signs, and all of a sudden I like have a revelation, and I'm like thinking new things, and the more stuff I read, the more books I read, the more information I look at, the more I'm able to feedback with that and create my own ideas from reading other people's stuff, like what I don't agree with, what I do. And it's almost like it creates that new third space, this 4D plasma, where I all of a sudden am like flooding information in from this like fifth dimensional space. So I love flow states. Um, they also, sometimes I'm in them, sometimes for a month I'm not in one, and then I think I lost it forever. And I think that's just like a human weird thing. And then I get another one and I'm like, oh, it's back. Thank God. But I think like the biggest things are like embodiment is very important. That has to do with plasma. So like lightning literally can't ground without like lightning can't come down without a grounding source, and lightning's literally plasma. So like if you want to get in flow states or get this information from these higher realms or whatever, you want to ground. You want to do embodiment practices like Qigong or Qigong. I forget how to say it. I do that, try to do that every morning. Or like a grounding or somatic yoga, like earthing, putting your feet in nature. Meditating, I try to do twice a day as well, but I wouldn't call that grounding. But I would just say that's like connecting within. But then, even more important than that, I think, is living your human life. Like, if you want to see a movie, go see a movie. If you want to eat like tacos, go eat tacos. Like, everything in moderation, but like, let yourself be in a state of play. And like, I think, Socrates saying know thyself is like the smartest thing ever. It's just knowing who you are and being that. And you don't have to even worry about when you enter flow states because your own natural being and natural curiosity will get you in them when you're meant to get in them. And when you're meant not to get in them, you're not meant to get in them and you're learning stuff and going through trials and um yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But yeah, plasma responds best to play. Plasma, there's a thing in thermodynamics, like, okay, where you're more wet to the plasma field, which means you're actually feeling more emotion or feeling. When you're actually not suppressing feeling and you're in a dry state, and you are more visible coherently to the plasma field. So if you want to manifest something in reality, you have to know how to authentically feel your own emotions and not suppress them. And that is being coherent with your heart, which actually, oh, oops, the thumbs up thing, which actually,
Which is kind of funny.
spirit agreed with me. But yeah, when you're more coherent in your heart and like, because, I talk about healing a lot. And the thing is, like, we'll never be fully healed. There can be toxicity with healing, thinking you need to be healed for all these things. What's even more important than healing is just letting yourself feel every day. And that is how the plasma field kind of responds to you. Because what is the plasma field? It is feeling, it is sentience, it is not consciousness. So that's how it hears us. And through that, we reach our higher self. So when we're coherent in our emotions and feelings, that on the other side of that is our higher self. And then it limitlessly is giving us what our subconscious wants. So if we're able to reframe our subconscious and get out of this trauma where we're mostly subconsciously chasing the wrong things, when we heal and we're coherent in that, then it starts giving us what we actually want and need. And that's when we're in communication with our higher self, which is what I'm teaching in my next magic class. But yeah, anyway.
Well, that's why I mentioned and spent some time discussing like the small signal, the large signal, because a lot
Yeah.
of people have that large signal moment that could literally send them to the hospital before they make the change. But I
Hmm.
feel like the universe, all the possibilities are always open, and therefore that's why it's always feeding us those little small signals, even though it may be
Mm.
like, yeah, they're probably not going to get it and actually do it, but maybe,
Hmm.
some people are
Mm.
able to have that instant shift.
Yeah.
Um, and if you can do that with a small signal, then that just gets you onto your soul purpose aligned path, like your
Mm.
soul purpose mission path, so much faster.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and I feel that that's what the universe wants. It wants us to get there authentically
Yeah.
as soon as possible, so we can exert the maximum amount of beneficial change for ourselves, the planet, the universe, and in general, everyone. Because I feel
Yeah.
there's a sense of let's create more coherence and stronger signals rather than just like a mess of chaos where there's really no meaning to things. I
Yeah.
do get a sense that in general that right now the world's in like this really big state of flux. And so there's a
Mm.
lot of things that aren't simply even meant to be right now. Whether
No,
that's you
totally.
living in this place or this relationship happening or
Yeah.
you getting this maybe promotion because actually you don't need that. Like you're not supposed to have that job. Like there does
Hmm.
seem to be this flux state where the universe is like collectively saying, please just hang on for a little bit because it's all gonna
I
make
think so.
sense in like 3 years or 6 months or whatever it is. Just like calm
Yeah.
down and then you'll
I
understand.
know. I get those messages too. I'm listening, but like yeah, it's just sometimes, I mean, as a human, no matter how much I study the plasma stuff and the surrendering, like I just sometimes want what I want in the moment. And um that I think has been my biggest life lesson is like patience and letting things unfold. And I know it's going to lead to a way more fulfilling life, but I'm right in the middle of that lesson. And when you're in the middle of those lessons, at least for me, what comes up, like your inner child work and your abandonment wounds and like thinking you have to earn love and all these things. And it does really connect back to plasma and consciousness, but it's about actually, yeah, making different choices and like taking a breath and really trusting the unfolding of things. And I am doing it. It's just hard, which is why I had to smoke cigarettes for a week. Yeah. Ah,
So, is there anything else that you'd like to discuss about anything plasma stuff in your book, or anything that you'd
yeah.
like to share with people before we sign off?
Yeah, I would say I'm really curious about where you travel, but I'll ask you that off camera. I would say to anyone who maybe doesn't know anything about this stuff, at least for my book, like my book is a kind of thing, just like I think any other real thing, where it's not a savior, it is a bridge. It's where it is this like liminal transitional space that meets you halfway. And just like me, like you have to do the work to actually apply change in your life. But this has so many like gems in it that I'm pretty sure I kind of picked from this fifth dimensional space for like my future self. Like I'm even rereading my book because I'm like, wait, I wrote this. Like I don't even remember writing half this stuff. But you know, if you want to have real change in your life and like enjoy the connection, magic, and love that reality has to offer and live like a juicy life and a
Oh,
whimsical life. Uh-huh.
you're like a juicy life,
It is though, like, just like a I don't know even how to say it, but just
luscious.
yeah, like yeah, just like a refreshing. Like I know that's accessible because I felt it a lot. You know, I just get sucked in like we all do to certain things. And then I get out again and then life's amazing. And I think that's just being human. But it's like I think my book is the perfect mix of like spirituality, science, and just humanity. And I think it's like a whimsical hug and like a small slap on the butt and just like a hey, like we're all weird and there's also really cool shit in here that will kind of like change your views of reality. But as far as plasma goes, I think just knowing that like plasma is love. It loves us, it supports us. It is literally like our cosmic mother. And that these beings, these higher dimensional beings, any being that visits us, is for our highest good and our highest growth. And we can choose to see that, or we could choose to see the reflections of our own consciousness. And that, you know, we're all meant to live very joyous, beautiful lives. And it's our choice to either step into that or not. And I'm right on that bandwagon working with everyone listening to this on that. But I do know that's true. It's just embodying that takes time. That's all I have to say.
Well, everyone, Dana Kippel, thank you so much for joining us and for the
Thanks.
wide-ranging discussion that we had, because it's important that we talk about these things because, I
Hmm.
mean, as I champion on my show, and just what I talk about is that everything is connected. And so sometimes I'm spending a
Hmm.
lot of time talking about the science and other times a little bit more on
Hmm.
spirit. But it's nice when you can circle around all of them at once. And
Hmm.
the conversation can go to some weird places, but you don't know what little things that people will glean from it. And sometimes it's very,
Hmm.
you're like, oh, I would have never thought that that would have triggered some big response to someone, but it gave them exactly what they needed. So I have a feeling that we
Mm.
just created a little bit of magic that anyone that watches this is going to have gone something from that will be hopefully pretty transformative. So thanks for being here. You can follow
Hmm.
her on Instagram at Dana the dot the alien, and
Instagram. Yes.
I'll put all your socials in the video descriptions. If you guys want
Sorry.
to follow her, then you can see that in the video description. And then yeah, thank you.
I froze a little at the end, of course.
That's fine. I can edit it.
Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
You
Awesome.
want to say
Yeah. So every time I talk about this stuff,
some
I
final
go,
thing, like a final goodbye?
oh no, you can turn
Just
off the
just just
recording.
say just say like
Goodbye.
a yeah, just say like a final goodbye
Oh,
really
okay.
quick.
Okay. Oh God, I'm so bad at this. This is why I'm not a famous actor.
Like, thanks
All right.
everyone. See you
I don't
soon.
even know what to say. Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, we'll cut it. It's done, folks.
Cut it. I
That's
can't.
it. Get the fuck out of the video.
Thanks,
Close the app
everyone.
and go do
Bye.
something fun, okay?
Yeah.
Go live your
I'm
life.
awkward.
Okay.
Yeah,
Peace out.
that was better.